Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballava Girivardhari Gopi Jana Ballava Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading today from the Srimad-bhagavatam. Which chapter? Which verse? 18, I think. Yeah, 18. Okay. 8th canto, 3rd chapter, 18th verse. Atma Japta Grihavita Janeshu Saktire Dusprapanaya Guna Sangha Vivarjitaya Muktat Madhi Swahridaye Paribhavitaya Janatmane Bhagavate Nama Ishwaraya Atmatma Japta Grihavita Janeshu Saktire Dushprapanaya Gunasanga Vivarjitaya Muktatmavi Swahridaye Paribhavataya Janatmane Bhagavate Nama Ishwaraya Atma Chapta Griyavita Janeshu Saktire Dushprapanaya Gunasanga Vivarjitaya Mukhatmavi Swahridaye Paribhavataya Janatmane Bhagavate Nama Ishwaraya. Oh, yeah, it's okay, we already did it once. So, word for word, Atma, the mind and body. Atmaja, sons and daughters. Apta, friends and relatives. Griha, home, community, society, and nation. Vita, wealth. Janeshu, to various servants and assistants. Saktai, by those who are too attached. Dushprapanaya, unto you, who are very difficult to achieve. Gunasanga, are the three modes of material nature. Vivarjitaya, who are not contaminated. Mukta Atmavi, by persons who are already liberated. Swahridaye, within the core of the heart. Paribhavitaya, unto you, who are always meditated upon. Jnana Atmane, the reservoir of all enlightenment. Bhagavate, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Namaha, I offer my respectful obeisances. Ishvaraya, unto the Supreme Controller. Translation.
My Lord, those who are completely freed from material contamination always meditate upon you within the core of hearts. You are extremely difficult to attain for those like me who are too attached to mental concoction, home, relatives, friends, money, servants, and assistants. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, uncontaminated by the modes of nature. You are the reservoir of all enlightenment, the Supreme Controller. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Repeat after me. My Lord, those who are completely free try speaking into the microphone if you're so that others can hear. The Srila Prabhupada's purport. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes into the material world, he is unaffected by the modes of material nature. This is confirmed in the Ishopanishad. Apapa vidam. He is not contaminated. The same fact is described here. Guna Sangha Vivarjita. Guna Sangha Vivarjitaya. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears as an incarnation within this material world, he is unaffected by the modes of material nature. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 11, Avajananti mang mudha manushim tanam ashritam. Foolish men with insufficient knowledge deride the personality of Godhead because he appears just like a human being. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood only by the Mukatma, the liberated soul. Mukatma B. Swaha Hridaye Hari Bhavaya. Only the liberated souls can constantly think of Krishna. Such a person is the greatest of all yogis. Yoginam apisarvesham madgatim antaratmana shwadavan vachacheyo man same yukta mayo mataha. Of all yogis, this quote is translation to that verse. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me in faith, with great faith, worshiping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. Yeah. Somebody sent a note. They can't hear you. Anyway, they couldn't hear. So, but now I'm speaking. Om Om Ajnana-timirandasya Kinachana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, Lord Krishna, he appears in the material world. We don't say that Krishna was born because we refer to the personalities of Godhead, the different incarnations of the Lord. Then or Krishna himself, we say the proper terminology is he has appeared here, not that he has taken birth. We could say he has taken birth, but it has to be understood properly. But usually we say that he has appeared here. So and that's because we have all taken birth. The soul has come into the material world, has been forced to accept some body according to our desire, and for one who is born, death is certain. So Krishna does not die. Krishna is eternal. So we cannot say that Krishna is born, because if Krishna was born, then Krishna would have to die. The Bhagavad Gita says like this: for one who is born, death is certain, and for one who dies, birth is certain. He's telling Arjuna. So therefore, one must perform his prescribed duties. This is Lord Krishna speaking to Arjuna to try to convince him to go and fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. But in any case, Lord Krishna he appears in this world, but it's not birth. That he's not under the control of the material nature as we are. So the Lord is not forced to appear. He is unaffected by the modes of material nature. So that's another aspect of it. If we who were forced to appear because of our desire to enjoy separately from the Lord, if we commit sinful activities, then of course there's reaction. If we perform pious activities, material pious activities, then there's reaction. Good karma means that you come back in the next lifetime, and you enjoy that good karma. But it does mean you have to come back. We have to come back. In fact, therefore the verse is that for one who has been born, death is certain, and one who has died, birth is certain. And this goes on for millions of years, maybe billions of years, going through the cycle again and again and again of birth and death and the different species of life. Everyone's going through it. But Lord Krishna, he is not forced to take birth. Actually, he doesn't take birth. He appears. He appears in the material world when he feels like it, like that. And although the Lord appears when he feels like it, I mean, he's not restricted, he's not controlled in any way, but he does make a point to appear at certain times, certain scheduled times, because the Lord is, because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He can do whatever he wants to do, but for us, it's important that he does appear on that certain schedule, because anyone especially anyone who has a little bit ability, a little bit of mystic powers like that, some extraordinary something about their personality. It's not uncommon, especially in India, people claiming to be God. I'm God, and just look at my mystic powers. There was a during the time of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there were different people. One of them was he was a yogi, or he had some power, and he could make fire comes shooting out from his head, from his hair, like that, and do things that most people could not do. So he was claiming himself to be God, and he was demanding that I'm I'm God, I'm Krishna, and therefore I want you, all the respectable people in the town, I want you to send all your young beautiful daughters to rasa dance with me. He was saying like that, but and people in general were pretty simple, and they were thinking, oh, God Himself has come. Look at His powers, and he's this is actually very good for my daughter. But it was just illicit sex. It was so Bhaktivinoda Thakur came to know of this person, and he confronted him, and he actually arrested him. He arrested him. In modern times, we can't say nobody gets arrested for pretending to be God. But at the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because it was then, and also because of who Bhaktivinoda Thakur was, a very great, advanced, saintly person who happened to also be he was a judge, he was a high court judge. So he arrested him, and he took him to court. He made him go to court, and this person was charged for this transgressing the Vedic laws, the religious laws. So like that. Ultimately, this personality died he died in the prison. He died in jail. I think he may have killed himself. He died in the jail. But in any case, the real Krishna Krishna can appear anytime, any place, and he's not controlled by the modes of nature. This particular yogi, he had some mystic powers, material powers, but he unfortunately he misused them. In fact, in the yoga system, the mystic yoga system, if you're practicing yoga by that method, you can go off it's just like to go to school. You study something, and then you can branch off into something similar from that point. So you're practicing yoga, and somewhere in the yogic practice, you can actually start practicing and learning, mystic yoga, not just yoga for realizing God, but you can easily get distracted and practice mystic yoga. And mystic yoga means if you perfect it, if you can perfect it, then there are different kinds of mystic siddhis that you can get. And they're just material powers you get from certain austerities and whatever the practice is. I'm not familiar with the practice, and I don't think any of us today could actually perform these kind of activities. But in any case, there are these mystic powers that a person might get if they decided to practice the mystic yoga system. And Srila Prabhupada describes some of these abilities. one is called Anima Siddhi. Siddhi means perfection. So Anima Siddhi means that you can actually, if you have it, if you've perfected that particular ability, you can make yourself very small. Srila Prabhupada writes, Nectar Devotion actually mentions it. You can make yourself, your body, very small, so small that you can enter into a stone. Can you imagine? A stone, we say, is solid. But if you look very closely, you look under a microscope, stones probably also have little holes in them. And if you're small enough, that little hole could be like a cave. That hole in the stone could be like a cave. You can make yourself so small you can enter into that. In fact, Srila Prabhupada tells, I've only heard it one time, I guess he didn't make a big thing of it, but he did mention it once, that his father, when he was a child, Srila Prabhupada was a child, his father took him to see one yogi who had this kind of ability, and he was performing. He got off of the path of really self-realization type yoga, but he got deviated into the mystic yoga. So he had this ability, this Anima Siddhi, and they would put him in a performance, like a circus or it wasn't necessarily a circus, but it was somewhere where he was performing. They would put him in a box, put that box inside of another box, and put that box inside of another box, and so many enclosures like that, and then lock everything up, and everyone's watching. You can see on all sides that there's no way he can get out. So but after a few seconds, he's out. How did he get out? He got out. Srila Prabhupada explains that he made himself very small. Came outside. Came through a very small hole in these boxes, and unseen by anyone, he went out and he expanded himself again. It was a mystic power. So that's Anima Siddhi. Mahima Siddhi, we see in Krishna book. Sometimes the demons have developed these powers to make themselves very big. Actually, you can make yourself very big, make yourself at some other form. Jai Shri Gauranitai, Shri Shri Radha Vrita Vihari, Jagannath Balaram, Lady Subhadra, Ki Jai. So, anyway, Anima Siddhi, Mahima Siddhi, Prapti Siddhi, you can just reach out somewhere and you can actually acquire some fruit or something from another place, even on another planet. You can get it. You want some mango from we're in Miami. You want some mango from India. At Prapti City, you can get it. It appears like it's just popping in your hand. It's a mystic power, material power. Anyway, there are several of these. There are 8 or 9 mystic cities that one might get. Srila Prabhupada, when he was explaining all this in the Nectar of Devotion, the point of it all was that even if you have, he said, if one has these abilities, this mystic city powers, then showing off and making everyone think that you're some wonderful, great person can make one feel give you a sense of happiness. I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer, like that. But he said you're enjoying like that. But he says that the enjoyment that one gets from from having mystic powers, or the enjoyment that one gets from merging in the Brahma Jyoti, which we've talked about a couple of times recently, is nothing compared to the enjoyment that one can experience by becoming absorbed in devotional service to Lord Krishna. So you can imagine how much we enjoy. Of course, we all have experience of it. Those who are watching here, we all have experience that we can enjoy chanting Hare Krishna, enjoy doing other services for Lord Krishna. We have that experience already. So Srila Prabhupada was explaining like that in the in that part of the Nectar of Devotion. But in any case, that's mystic cities. Those are material things. And Krishna, of course, can do all these things too. He can do anything. But Lord Krishna, he, unlike us, is not controlled by the modes of material nature. So just like even if someone has that ability, these mystic abilities, it's actually dangerous because you get these abilities and you get others thinking that, hey, this person is God. He can make himself big, he can make himself small, he can make himself any form, he can, it's very impressive to the people in general. But when one's doing that, then he's not in Krishna consciousness. He's completely absorbed in his material, mystical abilities, and the danger is that he is already being controlled by the material nature. He's being, the three modes of material nature are controlling him, and he can very easily fall down from that position. Just like the different demons that we read about in the Krishna book, who came to attack Krishna, they all had so many mystic abilities. Trinavarta was like a hurricane. Bakasura was like a big bird with a big beak. Tried to kill Krishna. Putana could make herself very nice, beautiful lady, but when she was ready to do something, she made herself this huge, ugly witch, like that. So they had these abilities, but they also were completely controlled by the material desires, and ultimately they all lost. They all fell completely under the modes of material nature, and their lives were finished. And they were all killed by Krishna. So, but the point here in this verse is that Lord Krishna himself, he can do anything in this material world. He can kill someone. He can benedict someone. He can kill someone. Actually, for Krishna, it's the same thing: killing and benedicting. Because if you're a demon, and Krishna chooses to personally kill you, what happens to you? You get free from the material entanglement, but you can only go to the Brahmajyoti. That's when you merge in that Brahmajyoti. And if you were a pure devotee of Krishna, and you die, then you go back to the spiritual world. But Krishna himself is not in any way controlled by the material nature. He's not controlled in any way. And Srila Prabhupada points out here, quotes the verse, Avajananti mang buddha manushim tanum ashritam. Foolish men with insufficient knowledge deride the personality of Godhead because he appears just like a human being. So, yes, Krishna, Srimad-bhagavatam also says that, refers to different incarnations of the Lord. And he mentions Krishna and Balaram, who appeared just like human beings. Of course, what they did was not ordinary human ability, but they appeared like human beings. It was for most people didn't understand who Krishna actually was. In the inhabitants of Vrindavan, of course, they didn't care who Krishna was. They just loved him, and so they didn't care at all. But they loved Krishna just because he's Krishna. But a foolish person, a foolish man with insufficient knowledge, deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he appears in the form of a human being. So someone who's foolish, who doesn't understand Krishna's actual position, then what happens? They think, you read about Krishna. Oh, that's just a mythology. That's just a story. That's just made up. Krishna, nobody could do that. No real person could do that. And they deride him. They deride Krishna for what he did, because they don't accept that they see him as a human being, and a human being can't actually do that. So they say, people say, "Oh, this is probably just all made up. It's just a wild story, and somebody wrote it down. The scriptures are just storybooks." I mean, some people say like this, but actually, Krishna did everything that we've read about in the Srimad-bhagavatam, or Lord Ramachandra did everything that we read about in the Ramayana. It's also described in the Srimad-bhagavatam. Right? So these are great. The Supreme Lord appears in this world, and he performs many activities, but he's functioning within the human society. Krishna, just like Krishna, he grew up. There's a description of his being born, appearing to be born, not no one would know otherwise. But he appears in this world. He appeared in his childhood pastimes. He gradually grew up like that. Krishna appears in this human form, and he gradually went through the different stages of life, and then in due course of time, Krishna, we read in Krishna book, after he grew up, after the age of 15 or 16, then he went off to, or maybe 20 years, I don't know. Then he went off to Mathura, where he killed Kamsa, the demon Kamsa, and then he went off to and established his whole kingdom in Dwarka. And we say, okay, this is just maybe an exceptional person, but just a human being. That's what we're reading here. Fools will see Krishna as just a human being, maybe a strong, maybe an intelligent human being, but just a human being. But Krishna did things. Some things he did as would be done in human society. He grew up, got married, had children, those kind of things. But look at how Krishna did it. Krishna went to Dwarka. He had 16,108 wives. 16,108. That in itself is like, how is it possible? But he was. But you can hear about kings, and some people have many wives, or harems, and like that. You can hear about these things, you read about these things, but Krishna didn't do like everyone else did. The ordinary human beings do. Krishna, when he had his wives, he had a wonderful, big, beautiful palace for every one of them. So Dwarka was full of such places. Dwarka had uh, Dwarka had more than Krishna in Dwarka had more than 16,000 palaces, and each one he expanded himself. So Krishna was living, it's not just like Krishna is here and all the palaces. He has a wife in every one. It's not no. He was actually personally living in each one of these palaces. Uh, uh, with his wives and with his children. In each one, with each wife, he had 10 children, 10 sons, it says. And then in the morning, because Krishna was in Dwarka, so he was the king. So he would meet with his associates, talk about managing, managing the affairs there. So when he would leave his palace, he would leave all 16,108 palaces at the same time, so many Krishnas, and then at some point he comes all together, one Krishna, and he goes for his meeting, like that. So Krishna may appear as if in human society, but what Krishna did and how he did it shows that he's God. Still, people, if they don't want to believe it, they're going to claim it's just a story, it's just made up, it's just it's just a story that got out of control, like that. But we understand from Srimad-bhagavatam Krishna's position. So we should not be what's described in that verse, Abhajananti Mang Mudha. We should not be foolish men and women. We should be Krishna conscious men and women, and we should understand. We should simply accept that whatever the Vedas say, whatever the Srimad-bhagavatam says, all these things are we should accept as they are. In fact, faith in the scriptures, faith in the words of the scriptures, is a big part of the qualification that determines how advanced we are. Because it's described that the third class there's three classes of devotees. Third class devotee has very little faith. And that faith means basically scriptures. Very little. So for a third class devotee doesn't really understand much. It's hard to understand anything about Krishna consciousness. Trying to even accept or understand in some way the simple principles. You're not the material body. You're different. You are different from your material body. As on neophyte level, that's it's a struggle. So there's very little faith, and if someone comes along and starts making all kinds of arguments, and strong arguments against that faith, neophyte devotee can very easily be deviated. And then there's second class devotee. Second class devotee means they have strong faith in the scriptures. They have strong faith, and maybe not very expert in quoting verses and making arguments or counteracting arguments that someone else make. Maybe not so great like that, but firm faith in the scriptures, firm faith in the process of Krishna consciousness, an actual commitment. A second class devotee. And the first class devotee has total faith in the scriptures, and of course can make arguments for supporting Krishna consciousness and everything. So the point here is that faith is a very big factor. How much faith we have in that the words in the scriptures are actually absolute truth. They're actually perfect. They're actually what's beneficial for us faith we have in all this is it determines how advanced we are in spiritual life. That's the point here. So we should not be Avajananti Man Mudha. We should be Krishna conscious devotees with increased faith. Increased faith in Krishna consciousness, increased faith in that the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad-bhagavatam, and so on, and whatever it says is completely true and factual. That's a very, very, very important part of becoming Krishna conscious. If we don't have that faith, then we will not become Krishna conscious. And I think to some degree in other religions, followers of other religions have difficulty because they don't know if there is faith. They don't know if they have doubts themselves about their scriptures. For example, I was reading sometime back, in other groups, other religious groups, there's the older devotees, not devotees, but the older people in Christian and Jewish community, probably I'm sure in the Islamic community everywhere. They are very concerned about the youth because they may have a nice Sunday school or youth group or something like that, and those young people seem to have faith in their particular scripture and the particular path that they're following, like that. And then it was described that they grow up, they finish high school, they go off to college, they go away from parents, because they're off in college somewhere, and then they come back after a short time, come back for a visit, and they've practically thrown out everything they in their faith. They've rejected it, and it's describing that part of the problem is they go off to school and maybe they had some faith, some basic faith in the beginning, but they go off to school and then they take some college course, and the college course is talking about the course maybe they start teaching about the earth was not the universe was not created by God. You can't you maybe have an atheist teacher. Everything was not created by God. That's kind of a dumb idea, they'll tell you. But everything has been created by the Big Bang theory or something. They still call it a theory, the Big Bang, and everything is just kind of come into being, and it throws out the whole, for the Christians, there's a whole story or history or what you call it. The Bible talks about the creation and how God created everything in the beginning, and Adam and Eve and so on. They're hearing these things, but then they hear all this so-called scientific knowledge from school, and they don't dare argue with the teachers, otherwise they might fail the class. They're afraid of that. So then they start saying, okay, well maybe what we've been taught all these years is just some made up story. Maybe it's just something that maybe it's just not even true. They became doubtful because here's all these big important material scientists that are very educated and are teaching one thing, and we're taught something here which seems not to be impractical. So anyway, that faith is hard to keep that faith, but that's why we in Krishna consciousness, and maybe devotees also have this problem sometimes, but that's why we have not just books with rules and regulations and morality and things like that. We actually have a very deep philosophy that can be traced back to, thousands of years ago, the teaching not only what the actual teachings, but why is it like that? Why is the world the way it is? Why do we suffer in the material world if God is kind? If God loves us all the same. Why do we suffer in this world? And of course the answer is we're getting the results of our past activities. God's not, I like you, I hate you, you're going to heaven, you're going to hell. That's not what he wants to do. We are suffering because people in general are suffering because of their past activities. The same way some people are right now enjoying some very good material facility because of their past pious activities. But people don't understand that. Srila Prabhupada actually said that if someone is born in a wealthy family or your money comes very easily to them from the beginning of their lives, he says this is a result of past devotional activities, he said. And he explains that the reason, the way it works is that because of our past devotional activities, so we didn't finish up our spiritual life that time, but we were put in just like Bhagavad Gita says, or Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asked him, what happens to the yogi? He's practiced yoga for his whole life, but maybe he didn't finish, maybe he quit before he died. So what happens? So Lord Krishna says if he was practiced yoga for a long time, if he was pretty advanced, then he may take birth in a family of devotees. And if he was practiced for a short time only, he may take birth or may have some situation where he has a wealthy father or some money comes easily. And in that way, he can ideally, say, okay, I've got this nice facility. I don't need to work really hard. Let me look at the higher life, higher consciousness. That's what he should be doing. But sometimes people think, oh, I'm very great. I've become successful in business because of my great intelligence and so many ideas, and then they lose out. But actually, what's really happening which we without the philosophy, without understanding what things happen the way they do, then if we're suffering, we think either God does not exist or God is, if he put everything in motion and he just went off and did something else, he's not doesn't care about us anymore, or God just simply doesn't exist. It's just all just happening automatically in the universe. It's just doing things, and we're just caught up in it, so like that. So we need to try to understand the philosophy as deeply as possible, so we can understand why things happen the way they do, why I'm suffering, why I'm enjoying, what is the actual purpose of life, why is this the purpose of life. And that's why we study the Srimad-bhagavatam, that's why we study Bhagavad Gita. We're supposed to be studying these books every single day. As an important part of our becoming Krishna conscious. I see it's getting late again. Are there any questions? Anyone? I don't see anything coming in from no one online asking questions. So then I guess we end here. Tomorrow is Lord Ramachandra's appearance day, and also the 50th anniversary of the installation of our Gauranitai deities. Maybe we'll read something about Lord Ramachandra tomorrow. it's, because of the day. And in the evening, I think I'm giving the class tomorrow night, and we'll speak something more about specifically our deities and our installation that was done back then. And we'll see. Okay, so for now, we'll end here. Thank you very much for coming. Hare Krishna.